Alec Laing, ACL Shipbrokers Managing Director.
Thank you. So you did a presentation today to open the ITS convention. Could you elaborate a little bit for the audience here about some of the conclusions that came from that presentation?
I would say that it's going to be a very exciting decade coming, both in terms of energy transition and consolidation in the different regional markets. It continues to be a very fragmented industry, which with that brings a lot of opportunity. So I think it's going to be a faster moving decade ahead than we've seen in the past since the turn of the century.
Your research included interviewing multiple different industry leaders. Could you provide a bit more details on how you researched this presentation?
Absolutely. Well, our client base is obviously, we have a huge network across the globe, and it's our job to be in touch with all the key people, whether that's a big multinational down to a small operator. So we selected what we saw as the key opinions from different regions, and then went ahead and interviewed them. Some of them were face-to-face, South America, for example, in the UK and parts of Europe. Others we did online. And we used the information, obviously it was a dynamic interview, so we used the information from each conversation that we had on with the next one. So felt that this would give us the best sort of balanced approach. When you layer on top of that the key designers and shipyards as well, they have a completely different perspective on the market. And then we sense checked it against other brokers that we work closely with, and also key people in the industry, for example, the ETA, the BTA. So we felt it was a balanced view. But yeah, a lot of time spent and a lot of interesting opinions garnered.
And from that research, where do you think are the growth potential for the towage sector?
I think if you're talking green vessels, particularly in markets where tugs are a relatively small part of the market in terms of capex. So as we highlighted, LNG Canada, different terminals around the world. The actual cost of the tug itself, or the increase in cost up from a diesel tug is marginal. So I think that's definitely a growth area. In terms of other vessel types or other tug types, I think it depends on industry or region by region. So yeah.
Okay. Second-hand market, what's your perspective?
The second-hand market is very tight. I've been doing this for 15 years and I've never seen it so tight, which as a broker that rates themselves, I think it's a very positive thing. So we've got some excellent relationships with people, and this is when the internet is virtually useless in terms of searching for a vessel. So if you wanted to buy a second-hand vessel of a specific size, you would come to us, and we would know owners who would potentially sell you a vessel that was completely off the market. So we saw this last year where we were pushed to find a very specific designer vessel of a specific age. We knew there were 17 in the world. We phoned all the owners, we spoke to everyone at length, and then on the third time asking, we managed to replace one of those vessels with a new equivalent. So it was essentially a free upgrade for the seller. So to me, that's a fascinating market where an asset that's been working for 5 years can then be sold for more than it was bought for, when you would expect it to depreciate.
If you're an owner, would you go for a new build or a second-hand purchase?
The new build prices obviously have gone up 20-30% in the last couple of years, and I don't think they're going to come back down to the levels they were at. I don't see some big collapse in the market. So it's whether you can justify the day rates, which I think comes down to the length of contract that you secured with your end client. So if you were a new owner looking to buy their first tug in the market with no fixed contracts, I would suggest second-hand if you can find one at a reasonable price. And it also depends on emissions regulations. So obviously a lot of the world doesn't have to have IMO Tier 3, and we were also hearing that some of the IMO Tier 3 ready tugs, which a lot of the yards are advertising to at a later date, even if it's quite soon after, let's say a year into the use of that tug, to upgrade it to IMO Tier 3 can be a costly process, almost sometimes prohibitively expensive.